What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny5 Alive here, and in this video we will be reviewing Rogue Stormers, and I will be giving my thoughts and opinions on the game with a final score out of 10 at the end, and I base my game scoring on a value versus objective system. I will be covering the core gameplay, the game progression, the characters, the multiplayer, and the replayability. Alright, so let's dive into it. What is Rogue Stormers? Rogue Stormers is a 1 to 4 player co-op roguelike action twin stick shooter with RPG elements. The core gameplay is to essentially blast your way through orcs, goblins, and mechanical enemies while maneuvering dangerous hazards and enemy fire. You make your way through randomly generated levels to finally face a boss at the end, to then progress onto harder, longer levels with even more difficult bosses. The game has 7 levels total, but an endless amount of tasks and replayability, making each run more fun than the last. Alright, characters. I don't want to go too deep in the characters here. I have an in-depth review / breakdown for each character in a separate series. The links will be down in the description below, so if you want to check that out and learn more about them and hear my analysis and breakdown of those characters, go check it down in the description below or check it out on my channel. So I'll just quickly list off the characters here with a brief description. So you have Brecht, a well-balanced character with a rapid fire attack, good range, the ability to supercharge himself and allies. Presto, tank with rapid fire flamethrower which passes through enemies. He's great at melting trash but weak at downing bigger targets. He has a projectile shield ability that bolsters his tankiness. Camille is a long-range AoE rocket launching badass with a slow rate of fire. While she lacks in killing lingering small units, she makes up with blowing up big packs of enemies and does massive damage to big units and bosses. She also has a barrage of missiles to add to her explosiveness. Stabby Gale. Stabby Gale is one of my favorites. She has a short-range scattershot shotgun and she does massive damage. She is a very quick, nimble character with arguably the hardest start to playing, but upgraded, she can be the most powerful thing you've ever played with. She's a very risk-reward play style, suggested for advanced players only. Oh, she also has an amazing boomerang blade to slaughter everything in your path, and it pulls enemies in right to your shotgun range. Last but not least, you have El Cazador, the final character you unlock from beating the last level. He's a sniper with the hardest hitting single target attack, but he has a slow rate of fire. He struggles on big groups of enemy, but he comes with a bag of mobility tricks to help him get out of the situations, such as double jump, extra boost jet. He hits really hard with his special ability, but it's on a very long cooldown, so it's not that helpful. This character is probably my least favorite of them all, but he seems like he would be fun in group play. So the important thing to note here with these characters is that they all offer a unique play style. None of them really feel better than another. They just play differently. Each character has its own struggles and areas that they excel in. This really helps add a ton of replayability, as the game only has 7 levels, but those 7 levels feel completely different when tackled with a new character. The game starts you off with only one character and forces you to unlock the rest over time. The game has a surprisingly good progression system that may not feel too apparent right off the bat. So diving into the game as a generic shooter character Brecht and no progression earned, the game starts off feeling rather generic and somewhat clunky. At first, I wasn't overly impressed. I wasn't too compelled to play that much longer. I sort of felt like I was forcing my way through the game and forcing myself to play. However, with this game, the more you play, the better it gets. It's just unfortunate that it really takes a while before it starts getting crazy fun and very addictive. Okay, so now you've seen a little bit of the gameplay. So before I talk about the progression gameplay, I want to discuss a bit more about the controls. The game is very basic, yet has a solid control system. The whole control scheme is designed so that you never take your thumbs off the joysticks and focus on only using the 2 triggers and the 2 top bumpers, the LB and RB. You move with the left thumbstick and you shoot with the right thumbstick. You jump with the left trigger, and dash is set to RB, which I felt was very unnatural, as the jump and dodge are the 2 core mechanics that you're using constantly. No idea why the designers thought the RB would be a good placement for dash, and after you rebind it from RB to the R trigger, it feels much more fluent and natural feeling. However, custom key bindings cause this game to change its tips into things like button 6 instead of A, and button L4 instead of Y, which is somewhat confusing at first and a bit of an oversight by the design team. I really only wanted to change 2 keys around. I simply wish there was a swapping system to swap 2 buttons, or there should have been a secondary control set in place, and I think that's something that they should have play tested a bit more, but it's not really that big of a deal. The left bumper is your special ability. The right trigger is your secondary ability, but you don't use it often enough to take such an important button as the trigger key. This is why I rebinded it to the RB button instead of the right trigger. So once you have changed the bindings the way I have it, I feel it's much less clunky, as both triggers are mobility, jumping, and dashing, and then the bumper is your special, your secondary ability. They have cooldowns, and you won't be spamming them, as your jump and your dash, they don't have a cooldown, and you can use them as often as you want, so it feels much more fluent having them on the triggers. Let's talk about the pickups and how they play a huge role in Rogue Stormers. Now, one thing to note about these pickups and everything on the map, everything from health, secondary weapons, gold, and perks, everything in the game that drops on the ground will permanently stay there until you have moved on to the next level. So you can always backtrack for something if you're not ready to use it, and there are certain things like chests that damage you. They take away 30 health, and if you only have 30, it will literally kill your character. So there's certain risk reward things that you may want to leave around the level and come back later. So there is some backtracking for pickups involved, and that's part of the strategy of maneuvering through the level and deciding how you're going to approach the level. So let's talk about some of these pickups. So the first notable ones is going to be health drops. These are your lifeline, and often something you'll be scouring for, as this game is going to be punishing your health bar constantly. Health drops are in short supply. They sometimes drop off enemies. They can come from chests, but they also come from slot machines. They're slot machines scoured out, and they're more like gambling. So you can go up to one and you can spend gold and open up a slot machine and hopefully get health. So sometimes when you're really low on health, you might need to go gamble at a slot machine to heal yourself, but only sometimes get a weapon instead. So health is a very valuable resource in this game, and if you find a big health that gives you 20 healing and you only have 5 health to heal until you're at full, it's often something worth leaving behind and backtracking for later. So it's a big strategy deciding on how you're going to pick up your health drops. The next one is secondary weapon drops. You'll be finding all sorts of really fun secondary weapons to blast off. Every weapon has a cooldown, a durability, so you'll be cycling through these often. Secondary weapons can range from hand cannons, grenades, sentry drones, rockets, boomerangs, mines, and much, much more. But my personal favorite is the healing grenade. This little bad boy is a savior for obvious reasons. It can heal you. So you can throw it in a corner, go hide in the corner for a sec, and it brings you back to full health. And one really nice tip about this is if you're playing co-op, you can drop the healing grenade and it'll heal you up and resurrect your ally, as the way you have to resurrect your ally is by picking up 20 health globes. So health grenades are a must-have, must-hold on-to item depending on what character you're playing. Then there's gold. Gold can be used to gamble at the slot machines that I was talking about, which will sometimes give you health when you're in desperate need, or a weapon. And sometimes you'll need a secondary weapon. As I said, they have durability and you'll be cycling through them. But gold is best saved up for finding gold chests. These chests cost 500 gold to open, and you will get a perk. And then there are also stores in the game. The levels are randomly generated, and sometimes some of the areas will have a store. They have a lineup of perks for you to buy and choose from, and you can go take a look at them all and choose which one you want to buy if you have enough gold saved up. So you can find one of these, not have enough money, backtrack, explore the rest of the map, come back and make a purchase and get a new perk. These perks will stack endlessly, turning you into a godlike killing machine by the end of the game. They carry on to the next level. They just make you stronger and stronger as you go through the game. So gold, it's a risk reward thing. Should I get some health? Should I hold on and wait to kill an enemy? Do I get a new weapon? Or do I just save my gold and try and get as many perks as I can to see how powerful I could possibly get? So there's a lot of fun choices and strategies to be made based off of all these pickups that I'm talking about. So these perks are really crazy, and I'm going to talk more about them in a minute. Lastly, there are experience orbs. These drop constantly from enemies, and you actually get permanent levels for your character. So that leads me into the progression topic. So let's talk about progression. There's a deep progression system in this game that you'll soon become familiar with, which unravels into this fiendishly addictive loop of progression, making the game more exciting every time. The game almost becomes this sort of grindy RPG that pulls you in and gets you addicted, and you're leveling up and getting stronger, and you get this real sense of old school RPG progression, and it's really a lot of fun. You just gotta ease yourself into it. At first, none of that really seems apparent, and it's all behind the curtains, and then you start figuring it out the more you play, and then you start seeing it layer. You go into the game with a whole new mindset, and it's completely different the next few times around than it is the first. So let's go back to what I was saying about experience points and permanent leveling. At the end of every level, you receive a percolator, which gives you 2 random choices to choose from. This permanently affects your character forever, and when restarting a new game or joining with friends, you still maintain all those perks from the percolator, which means every time you play the game, your character is progressively stronger and crazier than he was the last time. These perks will continuously stack on your character, and some perks even stack up to 3 to 5 times. These perks can be anything from run speed, and you upgrade 3% all the way up to 15%. You can increase the range of your attack. You can increase the cooldown of your special ability. You can make it so your healing is more effective. There's so many different things that are going to really truly change the game and make it a little bit easier every time, but also make it more enjoyable as your character is literally transforming before your eyes. What's best of all about this perk system is every time you beat the final boss, you will receive 1 respect token and have another chance to re-roll a perk that you don't like into something of your liking, allowing you to really min-max your character. And this is truly brilliant for replayability, and it gives you that sense of min-maxing RPG grindiness that some people really like in their games. And I personally really enjoyed that. It's a really nice touch to the game. If perks weren't enough to get you excited about replayability of this game, there are also upgrades. Upgrades are essentially achievements. They're obtained by doing various tasks, kind of like questing. So they could be something like kill 2,000 orcs to unlock this crazy Gatling gun. And then there's the double Gatling gun. Or you can get crazy angel wings that literally allow you to fly. You don't no longer have to jump and dash. You can move up, down, left, right, like Geometry Wars. It's really crazy, but those ones are hard to achieve. So achieving some of these upgrades can be really challenging, and it adds a ton of replayability. Some require you to kill a boss 7 times or beat the game with a certain character, and so on. The harder the upgrade is to achieve, the more crazy or overpowered it may turn out to be. So once you have unlocked these upgrades, they now drop as one of the random perks from the chests, stores, or the different things that you normally spend gold on. So essentially, the gold rewards become more enticing and exciting every time you play through the game, based off of the previous upgrades you got on your last playthrough. So it really changes every time you play the game, and it gets more exciting because the more upgrades you have, there's more random chances you're going to get some crazy, but the more you get, the less of a chance you're going to get that crazy one. So there's a little bit of RNG and some rare drops. Getting that double Gatling gun or that Gatling gun could be really, really fun. Upgrades can be really crazy. I've gotten things like double jump, and it literally allows me to double jump. You can get jet boots so you can fly across the screen, like the angel wings that I told you about that allow you to fly. You can get new weapons that literally replace your current weapon. Double Gatling guns is a thing. It's better than your default character's regular assault rifle. You can get double damage, increased range. Increased range is amazing on certain characters, and there's just so much more. So much more. So suddenly you find yourself diving back into a new game while hoping to find recently unlocked upgrades from the last playthrough, and this becomes insanely addictive and adds this immense amount of replayability on top of your character gaining new levels the whole way through and new perks the whole way through. Adding to the progression is character unlocks. You only start with one character, and as you play through the game you start unlocking more and more. Presto is unlocked at 3, I believe, Camille at 5, Stabigale at 6, and El Cazador is unlocked after you beat the final boss. I found that after finishing the game, my characters now level much faster for some reason, and it seems like there's some sort of shared EXP EXP between characters. I noticed a huge jump in levels when switching between characters, and my gains were much quicker than the last time. So it seems like each character progressively levels faster, and the more characters you level, it kind of makes the next one level even faster and faster. So I think there's some kind of compounded EXP where it exponentially has a snowball effect of some sort. So let's talk about the multiplayer. This game is a 2 to 4 player co-op, both locally and online, and it seems like the type of game that you would want to play with a friend. It even has a 2 to 4 pack discount on Steam as a plus. I in fact bought this game strictly for the co-op experience, and I likely would not have purchased it if it was single player only. One quick note, the matchmaking for this game is really bad. There seems to be no lobbies to join, no games available, and after 20 hours of playing the game, I only ever had one person join my game. So the funny thing about this game and its multiplayer is I actually somewhat enjoy the single player more, and I have invested more time solo than I have co-op, which is a big surprise for me. I still had a great co-op experience, but co-op comes with a bag of issues, and let me explain. So if you dive straight into a co-op game like we did, it's even harder and more punishing than it is starting the game solo. It feels like you level even slower, like some sort of split EXP. You have to share the pickups, the perks, and the enemies don't drop any extras, so you found yourself spread out a bit. Your friend is taking one perk and you're taking another, and now all the perks are split up, and now you don't get to be this giant godly character. You're kind of just both like half godly characters, and it's not nearly as interesting when you don't get to like hoard these insane amount of layered perks. You often get confused because both players are shooting blue bullets no matter what kind of character they are. So if the second player is red and he's X character and you're blue character and you're X character, you both have blue bullets. No matter what character you are, all the characters have blue VFX bullets, and I thought this was a big blunder on the design choice, because if you're the same character and you're standing on the same spot and you got two lines of bullets, one shooting low and one shooting high, you kind of go, am I the one shooting high? Like, I think I'm aiming this way, and you look down and you try and adjust it and you move down and your friend's adjusting, he's moving up, and you're moving your fire like this and you can't figure out who's missing, and it often becomes just a mess. Another problem is the host is in control of the screen. The second player will struggle in many situations with vision problems. They may be stuck in the bottom corner and they can't see. The host has to come back a bit, and it's one of those screen tug-of-war kind of game situations, and I really don't like that. I really wish there was a way for the team to make it so that you could go in split directions. So you could literally veer off, and I could be on this side of the map and he could be on this side of the map. That would have been really awesome, and it really would have taken this game to the next level. It would have been amazing. That and making it so the VFX matched the color of the character. Those are two of the big core problems with multiplayer. The visuals become crazy for both players, and you both end up taking more unnecessary damage with no extra health packs granted. When one player dies, it's a very long wait for the other player, as the other player has to collect 20 health globes in order to resurrect their buddy, and that can often leave you waiting for like 10 minutes just doing nothing. And then all those previous facts that I just mentioned makes 4-player even more of a mess. We were playing co-op and we weren't even able to make it far enough to unlock a new character after several hours of playing. The moment I switched to single player, I played through the whole game in one clean try, unlocking every character along the way. So we were struggling for probably 6 hours, and we couldn't make it past, I think, level 3 or 4. I go to single player and beat all 7 levels. That's the difference between multiplayer and single player and how challenging it can become. So there's definitely a huge imbalance in the multiplayer system. So strangely enough, this isn't a game that I would buy to play alone, and I actually ended up playing 12 hours solo and 8 hours with a friend. I'm quite glad the game is enjoyable solo. I just really wish the co-op experience was designed a little bit better. Co-op should really just be a twice as much fun version of what the single player is. Unfortunately, the single player is twice as much fun as the co-op, which is really doesn't make a lot of sense. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's still pretty good playing multiplayer. It's an extra feature. Like, the co-op is still there. So if your friend's playing or wants to play, you have that option. So other than some faults in the multiplayer, I have said a lot of positive and great things about the game so far. However, there are some things that have left to be desired. Once you beat the game, you're sort of just beating it over and over. And while this is still very fun, it starts to get boring, and you don't really truly get that full potential or the godlike upgrades and the toys to play with before it starts feeling a little bit repetitive. So I could see a potential 100+ hours of gameplay here easily, but it's likely to get redundant after 40. Let's talk about things I would like to see added to the game, which could easily work as possible DLC and would have me running back to the game to play more of it. So number one, one, I think an endless mode would be great. Let me go back to level 1 after I beat level 7, but on a harder version of the game. Make the enemies harder. Just keep making the progression go past level 7 so I can see how far I can go and I can see how godlike my character can get. Number 2, based on the previous point, if you have an endless mode, a leaderboard for endless mode would be really great as well. 3, more biomes and worlds. Add in a new set of 7 levels for people to play through. 2 or 3 biomes to choose from. Instead of going back to the orc stuff, maybe they could go over to an undead world just to kind of get a new flavor going on, something else to level up on and get stronger. They can go and play, you know, levels 1, 2, 3 of a different biome, and that would really help the game a lot. 4, fine-tune the characters just a bit. Go check out my character reviews. There are some really small fine adjustments that I believe that would make the characters play and feel much better, and they don't really affect too much. They're not overkill. 5, fix the multiplayer with the suggestions I made earlier. Make it so the red player shoots red bullets, the second player can free roam, and the screen follows them. Everybody gets their own separate screens. Alright, so let's go to the final verdict of this game and give it a score. I score my games on a system which is value versus objective. So let's look at this game's value. The price of the game is running at $21.99 Canadian, but was also on a sale of 20% off at launch and is cheaper when you buy a 2-pack or a 4-pack. So I ended up getting my copy for $13 Canadian with the sale in the 2-pack. So that's like a $9 discount. I've put in 8 hours co-op, 12 hours solo for a total of 20 hours, and I still have cravings to play it some more. We are looking at less than $1 per hour of gameplay at the retail price, and less than 50 cents per hour at the price that I paid. The value of this game is substantially great. Really, really great. Let's look at the game's objective. A multiplayer co-op roguelike twin-stick shooter with RPG elements is the objective. It sort of did poorly on the co-op for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, and this is really, really unfortunate, as this was the whole reason I purchased the game. However, the game more than makes up for its lack of multiplayer by giving you this engagingly addictive roguelike experience packed with RPG aggression, and even I found myself addicted to a game that I did not think I would play without my friends. So it pulls you in for the multiplayer and it gets you hooked to the single player. So they screwed up on the multiplayer somewhat. It's still okay. It's not terrible multiplayer. It's just not as great as I thought it could be. But the single player makes up for it. But that's not really why I bought it. So I have to knock a point or two there for that. Game constantly hounds at you to keep playing more, unlock more. There's so much endless replayability and many hours to sink in here. The game does, however, fall short in terms of game modes. Overall, I can't deny they did a great job at achieving the objective of this game. They just fell a bit short on co-op, and they fell a bit short on the ability to mix up the repetitiveness, but for the value, it's still great. So my final verdict for this game is a solid 8 out of 10. I highly recommend this game. If you love addictive RPG progression style games with a roguelike twist, even if you're not that into twin stick shooters, I'm sure you will find yourself having a blast if you get this game. 100%. If this game had the multiplayer fixes I mentioned, an endless mode, a couple more biomes, I could easily score it a 10 out of 10. Easily. Let's just say they bring a DLC with 14 more levels, an endless mode, one new character, and they give it to us for $10 or even $20. This would not hinder the value at all. The game is so cheap already and you're getting so much value for the amount of hours you're putting in that adding more content and charging me twice would not hurt the value of this game. Therefore, they can use DLC and another price tag to hit their objective, and it will not hinder the value of my score, and I could easily give this game a 10 out of 10 if they sell me more additions to the game and I'm willing to pay extra without affecting the score. That's how good the game currently is at the value it's at. But right now, my final score is an 8 out of 10, and I still highly recommend this game. It was a fun time and I still want to play more of it. So that's going to do it for this review. If you enjoyed, please smash that like button. If you want to be notified for more game reviews, drop me a sub. I'm Johnny5Alive. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next game review.